Abraham Isaac Cohen Kook, 1865-1935. He was the first chief rabbi of Palestine under the British. One could say the first chief rabbi of Israel, even though he died before the state of Israel came into being. He was here, lived in Yair, he came from Europe, and he helped establish the religious basis for the Jewish state. And he also wrote a lot and was a philosopher and someone who was inspired in many ways. And his works and his teachings are those that have been used as guides by the national religious groupings in Israel, all the settlements on the West Bank, and a good portion of the fighting soldiers, the frontline soldiers in the IDF, and also in the fields of science, in the fields of religion and education. Much of the great things that the state of Israel has been able to come into play are due to followers of his teachings that are taught in most of the national religious yeshivas in Israel and throughout the world. So he too spoke of this, and he saw the Zionist movement as fulfilling the role of Messiah, son of Joseph. He also considered Herzl, who was the leader of the secular Zionists, to have had a spark to be a forerunner of the Messiah, son of Joseph. And they helped build up the state, they helped prepare the way until the state came into being. But historically, we have to remember that they were unable to do this by the British. The British helped them do it. The British in the Balfour Declaration declared the principle that there should be a Jewish entity, an independent Jewish entity in the area of Palestine. And at that time, there were about 50,000 Jews registered in Palestine. It was 1/10 of the population. Zionists and religious Jews had already began coming in larger numbers, not only from Europe, but also from Teman and from other areas in Africa, and they started building up settlements. They do had to felt something was coming, something was in the wings. Changes were going to take place. And they came and they set up settlements, and then the British came, and then at that time Palestine was ruled by the Turks, the Ottoman Turkish Empire. The Ottoman Turkish Empire was, however, corrupt. It was about to be extinguished. It was a question of time, considered the sick man of Europe, and they made the mistake of joining the Austrians and the Germans in the First World War, and they lost the war. So the empire was defunct, de facto defunct, was to be divided up. The British and the French decided beforehand in the Sykes-Picot Agreement what spheres of influence would be. And the British, in effect, received the area of Palestine and some of the adjacent regions as their sphere of influence. And then the British cabinet there issued the Balfour Declaration saying that there should be an independent state in Palestine of Jews. Most of the Jews at that time, there were only maybe 10,000-15,000 Jews in Palestine itself, because in the First World War, during the years of the First World War, many of the Jews that had been in Palestine, moved to Egypt. But they moved to elsewhere because the Turks expelled all those who had foreign were citizens of foreign countries, and also there were plagues and all kinds of problems. So many of those few Jews who were there had already left, but they went to areas nearby so that after the war they could come back, and they did come back. But nevertheless, at the end, being only 10% of the population, nevertheless, the British more or less promised them the area, promised to set up a Jewish state in the area, and they did so. They began to do so. And you had British administrators. You had a British governor, you had British bureaucrats, you had British military personnel. And some of them were anti-Semitic, didn't like Jews. Or others were pro-Arab. They sympathized with the Arabs. They didn't agree with the Balfour Declaration. But nevertheless, they did their job. And there are others who maybe agreed with the Balfour Declaration, but didn't do their job. So there were ups and downs. There was friction between the British and the Arabs, between the Arabs and the Jews, and between the Jews and the British. And there were all kinds of problems. But nevertheless, it went ahead. Jews kept on coming in. That is the bottom line. And on the whole, the British helped them and they enabled them and built up the state. So that from about 15,000 Jews, it grew to 600,000 by 1948 in the War of Independence. And at the last rungs, at the last stages of this process, the British government tried to backtrack. They tried to set out the Jews. First under Chamberlain, before the Second World War, Chamberlain was then Prime Minister of England, and he decided that that he should, if he has to choose, as he himself said, he should choose between Jews and Arabs, he would choose the Arabs, because they're about to go, because maybe he didn't like the Jews so much, possibly. After all, he was the one who tried to do a deal with Hitler just beforehand. And also, they were about to go to war with Germany. And they lacked manpower, and they lacked this, and they lacked that, and they didn't have the personnel to fight a war against the Muslims, who they feared would rise up against them if they didn't do something against the Jews. And so they tried to limit the ability of Jews to come to the land after the Second World War. But nevertheless, Jews kept coming. Jews kept coming all through the war. I had relations who were in Palestine at that time. Jews kept coming all through the war. No Jew was actually turned back, even though the Zionists tried and say they were. Many of them were sent to Cyprus. But on the whole, they all many more kept coming to the land of Israel, and the land of Israel was developed all throughout the war. And also just before the war, the Arabs had tried to rebel against the British, and the British had suppressed them quite efficiently, quite effectively, so that more than 1 in 10 Arab adults were injured or partially incapacitated or killed by the British, who put down the rebellion of the Great Arab Revolt, 1936 to 1939. And the losses that the Arabs sustained enabled the Jews in 1948 to defeat the Arabs. It limited their abilities. So the British did a lot. They could have done more, but under the circumstances, they did quite a lot. And credit, if anyone's got to get credit, it has to go to them. Also, when it came from the time of the State of Israel to be recognized by the UN, Australia was the first one who voted in favour. All the British dominions voted for it. The British government, which had been against the state beforehand, was neutral, did not vote, but it encouraged its dominions and those it could influence to vote in favour of the state of Israel. And these actions of the British had been gone back from the 1600s. So the 1600s, in the time of Oliver Cromwell, and also before then even, there had been people in England who had spoken of the need to give the Jews their own country in Palestine, in the Holy Land. And this was one of the reasons why they did it. There were also other reasons, real political reasons. Some of them fought in the First World War. It might help them get curry favour with the Americans, because a lot in America were in favour of it. Or even those who fought, that might help them with the Russians, because at the beginning of the Russian Revolution in 1917, a good portion of the Russian communist leaders were Jewish, of Jewish origin, even though these are often the worst as far as being pro-Jewish are concerned. They still had hopes, and there were other reasons, other considerations. And despite all these other considerations, the bottom line is that they wanted it to go ahead. So therefore, in effect, they played the role attributed to Messiah, son of Joseph, as Rav Kook had indicated. That the Messiah, son of Joseph, comes and rebuilds the foundation, the infrastructure, lays the foundation for the future state. Then Messiah, son of David, will come along and supplement. So this, in a way, is already an indication. All these people pertaining to the lost tribes of Israel. After the state was established in 1948, the French helped. The French also contained a good portion of descent from the tribe of tribes of Israel, especially from Reuben and other tribes, Simeon and others. Also, the Netherlands helped. The Netherlands also from the tribe of Zebulon and also from Joseph. It was also important. And Belgium, even Belgium helped. The diamond industry, which was very important, the most important foreign exchange earner for a good portion up until recently, comes from the diamond industry, and that was set up through the agency of Orthodox Jewish, ultra-Orthodox Jews and Belgian Gentiles working together and establishing this. So too, the flowers, the export of flowers to the Netherlands gave the new state of Israel some of its business. It was also important in many ways and other ways. Nations, mainly nations that some or other are descended from lost tribes of Israel who helped the state of Israel. But later on they changed. Nowadays it's different, the situation is different, but there's still something to what we say. And so this is worth noting. The Messiah, son of Joseph, Maimonides, who's very important Jewish source, who's a writer of laws and a philosopher. And he wrote in his Code of Laws that the Messiah, son of Joseph, of David, the Messiah, son of David, will tell each and every Hebrew to which tribe they pertain to. He wrote this down as a legal enactment, which is something he didn't normally do concerning future events. But he saw it considered important enough to write it down, and was written down. That's what it says. There's another source, also a very early source from the Midrash, saying that it will be the Messiah, son of Joseph. The Messiah, son of Joseph, will tell each Hebrew in the end times which tribe they belong to. So here is another phenomenon. We often find the different functions of the Messiah, son of Joseph, the Messiah, son of David, overlapping. And then, in effect, they help each other. Different core sources concerning the Messiah, son of Joseph, say different things, but they all supplement each other. They all give us an overall picture. There's been an article by Chabad concerning the Messiah, son of Joseph, Mashiach ben Yosef, in Hebrew, who will act as a precursor to Mashiach ben David. He will prepare the world for the coming of the final Redeemer. Different sources attribute to him different functions. Some even charging him with tasks that are traditionally associated with Mashiach ben David, as we have said, such as the ingathering of the exiles, the rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash, and so forth. Some sort of say that King David will build, or the descendant of King David, Messiah, son of David, will rebuild the temple, whereas others say will be the Messiah, son of Joseph, who will do it, and he will prepare the way for the Messiah, son of the Messiah, son of Joseph, will prepare the way for King David, and Messiah, son of Joseph, will be the one who will rebuild the temple, or at least prepare its rebuilding. And it says that the principle and the final function ascribed to Mashiach ben Yosef is a political and military nation. He will wage war against the forces of evil that oppress Israel. Specifically, he will do battle against Edom, descendants of Esau. Esau. Those of us who don't remember, we reach a certain age, not everything is as fresh in our mind as it should be. And some of us may never have learned about it. So he had two brothers. He had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, Abraham was a full part of the Hebrew nations. Abraham was promised to become a great and mighty nation, in whom all the nations of the earth would rest, and also he would possess the gates of their enemies, meaning, according to Midrash, strategic thoroughfares, such as the British possessed, and such as America now possesses. America has about 700 foreign bases all over the world, and every single major thoroughfare in the world is probably controlled by America. Here and there, Britain controls a few. Here and there, there's Britain and America together. And they either have a base in that area or they have a base alongside it, with a base within reach of it. That is the policy, that is the international military strategy of England and America. It has been for centuries. The British began in the very beginning of the time of King Charles II, when they took control of Gibraltar. And even before them, when they took control of various strategic areas of France. They get control of strategic areas, the gates of their enemies, to control them. And thus they had tied up the world. And America continued it. America has even done more than Britain has done. Britain had a base here, an island there, an island somewhere else. America puts up bases all over the earth. And it's known about. You can look it up in Google. You look it up on the YouTube. And no one gets excited about it. No one even seems to notice. But that gives an American edge anywhere he wants. Tomorrow a war will break out in some area or other. America will have a base up there. America will be able to put its soldiers there, to put its aeroplanes there, its helicopters there, have a place for its ships to come in and refuel there, not far away. We'll be able to stop traffic, ships coming to the region, to do everything that the gates of the enemy should do. America will control it, or America and Israel and Britain together. That was a promise, one of the promises given to Abraham. Another promise given to Abraham was that he would bring a blessing to humanity, he would do justice and judgment in the world. And relatively speaking, that is what they have always done. If anywhere there is oppression or there's need for intervention, now the chances are America won't do anything. Yeah. Well, no one will do anything. But if someone will do something, 9 times out of 10, or maybe 99 times out of 100, it will be America or Britain or France. And that's all. Look at it. Look it up. Think of it. They are the ones who do justice and judgment as far as amongst the Gentile nations in the world. Oh, so that was a promise given to Abraham. Also, that there will be very numerous, a great number of people, as the sands of the sea, the stars of heaven, and that they would enjoy economic bounty, relatively speaking. That is what they have done. So these were the promises given to Abraham. After Abraham came Isaac. Isaac married Rebekah, and they had twins, Jacob and Esau. Okay, in the end, Jacob pretended to be Esau, dressed up in the clothes of Esau, went into his father, pretending to be Esau, and he took the blessing that was supposed to go to Esau, because his father was blind and didn't see them, and he blessed him, but then he confirmed the blessing. So this too is symbolic, that in the future, that in order to receive the blessings, those to whom the blessings were destined would have to dress themselves up, pretend to be Esau, to pretend to be someone else. And so that the 10 tribes too, the 10 tribes had to lose their identity, to not know who they were, to still to stay together and receive the blessings. And in the end times, that too is what they're doing now. They're acting as Esau. Esau had the reputation of, by a sword you will live. That was the blessing given to Esau, that he would be a military man. And he became a head of elites, military elites throughout the Middle East. The Spartans in Greece, the great soldiers of Sparta, which sent from Esau. So were the founders of Rome. So were many military elements, both in Asia and in Europe, at least in part descended from Edom. Edom is another name for Esau. And it says that Esau can only be defeated by Joseph. Only Joseph can defeat Edom. And Edom became an important constituent formative factor in Germany. And the last war we saw, it was primarily through the agencies of Joseph, that is Britain and America, that Edom was defeated. And so during the end times, a sign of the Messiah, son of Joseph, is that he will defeat Edom, as it says in the book of Obadiah, and also in Isaiah, and Jeremiah, and here and there, indicated throughout the prophets. There are references to it. So there still is an identifying factor of who the lost 10 tribes are, that they have this ability, that they act in certain ways.